How did Monica White escape Anthony Robinson? How did Monica White escape Anthony Robinson, the man later known as the shopping cart killer? The answer is more complicated than a dramatic movie-style escape. Monica White did not overpower Anthony Robinson or escape from a locked room. Instead, she recognized that something was deeply wrong, trusted her instincts, ended the relationship, and refused to meet him again. That decision may have saved her life. And the real story is even more disturbing because at the time, Monica had no idea she was dealing with a man who would later be convicted of murder. This is what happened. In late 2020, Monica White was a 53-year-old woman who had gone through a divorce and decided to try online dating. She met Anthony Robinson on the dating app Tagged. At first, Robinson appeared charming. They exchanged messages, talked on the phone, and had video calls. Their relationship developed quickly, and Monica believed she had found someone she could potentially build a serious relationship with. But looking back, there were warning signs. Robinson reportedly called her constantly. Monica later said that there were days when she didn't even want to answer the phone because of how frequently he contacted her. Still, she continued getting to know him. Then Robinson traveled from Virginia to Pennsylvania to meet her in person. This was when Monica began seeing a very different side of him. According to Monica's account, when they first met, Robinson told her that he did not like women rejecting him. That statement immediately stood out. It was an early warning sign that Monica would later remember very differently. During their time together, she also said Robinson became physically aggressive during an intimate encounter. She alleged that he tried to restrain her, pulled her arms behind her, and grabbed her neck. For Monica, this was a major turning point. She later described having a frightening feeling that something was seriously wrong. She stopped being intimate with him. But Robinson didn't simply back away. He was already talking about moving in with Monica. That was another red flag. The relationship was still relatively new. Yet Robinson was discussing living together and making plans that Monica felt were happening far too quickly. She rejected the idea. She told him he was moving too fast. But Robinson returned to Pennsylvania again around Monica's birthday in February 2021. And this visit would ultimately bring their relationship to an end. At Monica's birthday celebration, Robinson reportedly drank heavily and made inappropriate comments toward people at the party. Monica confronted him about his behavior. Then another disturbing incident occurred. According to Monica's account, Robinson urinated in her bed. The relationship had now reached a breaking point. Monica no longer trusted him. She decided that she didn't want him in her life anymore. And this is where Monica's escape really happened. She told Robinson that the relationship was over. She made him leave her home. At one point, she gave him money for transportation so he could leave the area. But Robinson didn't immediately disappear. He stayed in the Harrisburg area and later contacted Monica again. This was potentially the most important moment of the entire story. Robinson told Monica that he was staying at a hotel. He invited her to come and see him, and according to Monica's account, he offered her $500 to visit him. She refused. That decision is critical. She had already experienced disturbing behavior from Robinson. She had already decided that she didn't trust him. And instead of giving him another opportunity to draw her back into the relationship, she stayed away. The Lifetime movie emphasizes Monica's instincts and quick thinking during this period. Lifetime's official description says Monica manages to get Anthony out of her home after his behavior becomes menacing and later begins connecting him to a series of murders. But there was still one more frightening encounter. Monica later saw Robinson while she was driving in Harrisburg. She recognized him walking outside, and according to her account, something about him looked completely different. She described him as looking like a different person, someone frightening and disturbed. She didn't stop. She didn't approach him, and she never went to the hotel to meet him. That was essentially the end of their relationship. At the time, Monica still didn't know the full truth. She knew Robinson had behaved strangely. She knew he had become aggressive. She knew he had made her uncomfortable. But she didn't know that months later, authorities would arrest him in connection with the deaths of 2 women in Virginia. Anthony Robinson would eventually be convicted of murdering Aline Beth Redman and Tanita Smith. He also became known as the shopping cart killer because investigators said shopping carts were used to transport the bodies of victims. Authorities have investigated his possible involvement in additional deaths, although those cases are separate from the 2 murders for which he was convicted. For Monica, learning this information was horrifying. The man she had met through a dating app, the man who had visited her home, the man she had trusted enough to date, was now being identified by authorities as a murderer. And suddenly, all those earlier warning signs looked completely different. The statement about not liking rejection, the controlling behavior, the physical aggression, the pressure to move in, the strange behavior at her birthday, the invitation to the hotel, the money he offered her to come there. All of those moments became part of a much more terrifying picture. Monica later spoke publicly about what happened to her. Her story eventually became the basis for Lifetime's The Dating App Killer, The Monica White Story, starring Leela Rochon as Monica and Jared Joseph as Anthony Robinson. The movie is based on the real events, but viewers should remember that it is a dramatization. That means certain conversations and scenes are recreated for television. The core events, however, come from Monica's real experience. And there is one important misconception to avoid. Monica did not know that Robinson was a serial killer when she ended the relationship. She didn't escape because she had discovered his criminal history. She escaped because she recognized that his behavior was dangerous and decided she wanted him out of her life. That distinction makes her story even more powerful. She listened to the feeling that something wasn't right. She didn't accept his offer to meet at the hotel, and when she later saw him in public, she stayed away. Those decisions created distance between her and Robinson before she knew the full extent of the danger. Looking back, it is impossible to know exactly what would have happened if Monica had accepted that hotel invitation. We should not speculate about an outcome that never happened. But what we do know is that Robinson later became a convicted murderer, and Monica had already spent time with him before his arrest. That's what makes her survival story so chilling. She was close enough to see his behavior firsthand, but she was also able to recognize that the relationship was becoming unsafe, and she acted on that realization. There is also an important lesson in the way Monica's story unfolded. Danger doesn't always announce itself immediately. Someone can appear charming online. They can have normal conversations. They can seem interested in your life. They can make you feel special. And yet, once the relationship moves into the real world, their behavior can change. For Monica, the warning signs came gradually. It wasn't one single event. It was a pattern. The obsessive communication, the comments about rejection, the physical aggression, the pressure to move in, the inappropriate behavior, and finally, the invitation to meet him at a hotel. She eventually decided that enough was enough, and that decision may have been the most important one she ever made. So, how did Monica White escape Anthony Robinson? She escaped by recognizing the danger before she knew exactly what the danger was. She ended the relationship. She refused his invitation to meet him at the hotel, and she cut off contact. Months later, she learned that the man she had dated had been arrested and accused of multiple murders. Her experience became a warning about how quickly an online relationship can turn frightening when someone begins ignoring boundaries. And perhaps the most important part of Monica White's story is not simply that she survived a terrifying encounter. It is that she trusted herself. She didn't need to know that Anthony Robinson was a murderer before deciding she didn't want him around her. She only needed to recognize that his behavior made her feel unsafe. And sometimes that's enough. Because Monica White's story shows that you don't have to know exactly what someone is capable of to decide that you don't want them in your life. She saw the red flags. She walked away. And unlike the women whose lives were later taken by Robinson, Monica White survived.